Throughout the history of the series, Monster Hunter has had a series of collaborations, many of which come in the form of event quests with special rewards for us to collect and even some unique monsters to hunt. Many of these collaborations have been Capcom related, which makes perfect sense. Capcom has a long and storied history as a video game company with some of the most well-known and popular franchises in the industry. Resident Evil, Street Fighter, Mega Man, Devil May Cry, Dead Rising, Marvel vs. Capcom, etc. Monster Hunter is now Capcom's highest selling franchise, but it wasn't always like this. Regardless of that, it makes perfect sense why they would want to promote their other franchises in Monster Hunter because it's the perfect type of game to do that in. Outside of Capcom franchises, there have been collaborations with other game companies and manga too. For example, in Monster Hunter World, we had a Final Fantasy XIV event, which allowed us to hunt a behemoth from Final Fantasy and use its parts to craft Dragoon armor. Also in Monster Hunter World, we had a Witcher event, a Horizon Zero Dawn event for the PlayStation version, and even an Assassin's Creed Origins event. Monster Hunter Rise and its expansion Sunbreak were honestly pretty lacking in collaborations. Despite exclusively launching on the Nintendo Switch, the game never got any Nintendo collaborations like previous titles on Nintendo systems had. The game actually only had a few Capcom collaborations too. It was admittedly disappointing. I always love seeing the collaborations in Monster Hunter games, and there's usually a good handful of them. That brings me to the topic of today's video, which is collaborations in Monster Hunter Wilds. So far, the only hint of a possible collaboration is that Yoshi P, the director of Final Fantasy XIV, said that he wants to do another collaboration with Monster Hunter. Square Enix has also done several collabs with Monster Hunter in the past, so I think that this is totally possible and it's always nice to see. I also would really like to get some Final Fantasy VII related content in Wilds. The thumbnail of this video has that image from the collab that Monster Hunter did with Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis, and Monster Hunter hasn't had anything on its end yet. Come on, give us a cool event quest that gives us the materials to make the Buster Sword as a great sword. It'd be so fitting because I would genuinely be surprised if the Great Sword weapon type was not inspired at least somewhat by the Buster Sword. Naturally, I'd love to see as many Capcom collabs as possible. One interesting territory in terms of collabs are console-exclusive collabs. With Monster Hunter having crossplay, I think it would be a lot tougher, if not totally impossible, to do console-exclusive collaborations. Rise and Sunbreak were initially exclusive to the Switch, but later got released on everything else. This might be why there were no console-exclusive collabs, but at the same time, there was no crossplay, so I don't know. Xbox is currently dying, and even PlayStation has been putting all of their new games on PC eventually, so maybe it's still possible to see some collabs with Xbox or PlayStation IPs. Xbox would most likely be fine with PlayStation players getting access to collabs that involve Xbox IPs, given the fact that they are now open to putting any of their games on PlayStation, but PlayStation would definitely not be fine letting Xbox players have access to collabs that involve their IPs. It's a shame because I really want to see more PlayStation-related Monster Hunter collabs. A God of War event would literally be perfect. Blades of Chaos Dual Blades, Leviathan Axe Switch Axe, Blade of Olympus Greatsword. So much potential. Then there's Xbox, and a lot of their big franchises wouldn't really fit too well in Monster Hunter unless we're talking about ones that they acquired more recently. I'm sure they could come up with something, but I think it would be a bit difficult to do a Halo collab in Monster Hunter, but a man can dream. As for manga or anime collaborations, I personally am much more of a casual anime enjoyer who's only seen a handful of them, but just give me a Dragon Ball related event and I'll be extremely happy. I think that outside of collaborations involving other Capcom franchises, the most likely collabs will be the ones with other big game studios that aren't owned by Sony, Microsoft, or Nintendo. I'd love to see a Metal Gear Solid related one. With the MGS3 remake coming out in August, I could really see this happening. I would also love some other Konami-related collaborations too. Castlevania and Silent Hill collabs would go crazy. Fatal Fury City of the Wolves is coming out in a couple of months as well, and SNK has a good relationship with Capcom currently, so I think that's another possibility. Terry Bogard and Rock Howard layered armor would be insanely hype. I think a lot of these collabs make the most sense when there's something happening with those IPs, like the examples I just gave. There's so many possibilities for collabs in Monster Hunter, and so many that I personally would love to see. With Monster Hunter being Capcom's best-selling franchise, I think a lot of companies are going to see a collab with Monster Hunter as an opportunity to promote their IPs and brands. Well, what do you think? What collabs do you want to see most in Monster Hunter Wilds? What collabs do you think are likely? Let me know in the comments below, and I will see you guys in the next Monster Hunter Month video. Happy hunting!